Hey, so today we're editing 4 pictures and they're on the lower Salt River, just like the last video. In fact, the last picture was of this Ibis and you can see the horse behind it. And so what happened after that was I decided to shoot the horse. And you can see how I transitioned, right? Isn't that kind of cool to see that story? Is like first I got the Ibis and then, oh, there's a horse crossing. Oh, oh, get focus. Now we're in focus. The picture we're gonna edit is this one. I like this one a lot because there's a lot of dynamic movement in the water and the horse looks focused and its ears are pointed forward. I considered editing this one, but the horse looks more passive, and while I did like the contrast between the head and the darkness right here, I feel that this action taking place in the image tells a better story. You got this splash, but you feel the power of the horse. And so let's get started on this edit. First off, we are shooting at 318 millimeters, 1/1250 at 7.1. It was probably at auto ISO, and so facing, the reason why the ISO is a little high is we're facing the darker side of the image. You see this darkness, so the sensor said, oh, I need to have it lighter. With this image, because of the brightness in the water, you can see how the light is coming from this direction and there's a lot of brightness in the water. It was shot at 4:30, which is just, the sun is just about to start dropping down. In Arizona, it can be quite bright. So this image is a high contrast image, and because of that, I'm gonna want to edit it as a black and white. Okay, so we're gonna want to edit it as a black and white. And another reason to edit it as a black and white is the fact that there's this water, and the water has texture. And I really love that aspect of this story. I feel that black and white really pulls out that texture and really highlights it. And so this series of images, all 4 of them are going to be black and whites, and it's going to be focused on the texture of the water and the storytelling of the action of this wild horse. I want to preserve these rocks in the foreground. We might not want to, I don't know. Let's look at this. I think if I was printing this and putting it in a book, this is roughly the image, the crop that I would do. A 4:3 would fit well, but since most of my pictures are being used for videos these days, I'm gonna go by 16:9. And I'm going to actually crop it in towards that darkness. That's too far. Maybe we accept the tail. And I'm going to go lower because I really like this darkness right here. And I don't need a lot of this bush at top. There's no point in having that bush. So a part of me wants to go water in this third, horse body in this third, and then horse head in this third. Now let's look at this. And if you notice the cross section of the thirds, this made that the cross section. This is good. I'm not loving this blurriness right here. I find it distracting from the horse's face. So just in a note of, just if we lower the exposure a little bit, you can tell that this image is quite bright. It might be slightly overexposed because even right now we still have this right here has very little details in it. And yeah, we have to look how low we have to go before we get details in this section of the water. This is how you have to look at an image, is there's going to be dynamic light. There's going to be parts that are brighter and darker than others. And in this situation with the water catching the light, it makes for an interesting edit in my opinion. My approach is to edit the global settings first, and that gives me insight to what I will want to change specifically. Because, for example, we learned that about the details in the water. We need to lower the highlights. We learned that the background, if it's so bright, it merges kind of with the form of the face. And if we can kind of create separation with that on how we edit the image, especially when we do our sections. The only way to know that is by using I think the quickest way to see that is by experimenting with the global edits. So you got an interesting ray of brightness right there. We're gonna bump the contrast and look at that. I'm not sure I want the contrast all the way up because it makes it look more two-dimensional. And I like the dynamic of this is a live animal. Now we are gonna lower the highlights for sure because we saw how much detail we could get back in this water. And it's gonna be a fine line between crushing them versus or letting them be the highlight. We're gonna lower the highlights so that they can be the highlight. Sorry about that. It's just learning what words do I use to describe this? But I love the fact this has more detail in it now and the splash. I'm going to fix the crop. The horizon isn't level. That looks better. And sometimes I gotta take a step back. This is great. And then the shadows. Now, if we lower the shadows, it's the same as the contrast. So as we raise the shadows, the body of the horse. You notice how it really is affecting this area right here as we raise and lower the shadows. It's kind of right here, the most. And that's the point I'm getting at, is this image is so dynamic that I might want this background to look a certain way, but I don't want the horse to look a certain way. And if we do too much of an edit in the global, then we can lose a lot of details and information that is in the image. I'm like looking at my screen and thinking that my computer screen's dirty because there's all these random dots, like this dot right here, this dot right here. But it's just the water in the image. We have to be really careful with the global edits on this picture. I'm gonna lower the whites because that will help bring more details out of the water. And then blacks. Okay, so I know I'm gonna wanna do a background edit. I'm gonna wanna do a subject edit, and with water, I would be extremely surprised if we can get a very good mask, which is one of the reasons why I'm more comfortable doing the global edits for the white and the highlights, because that is the water mostly, and it would be really hard to do a mask for these droplets. I'd be very surprised if AI is gonna do it, and then the time it would take for me to go through and paint the mask to get those droplets would be intense. One thing though is this is where the curve might shine more than the global edit, is because if we look at this image, I'm gonna pull right here and you can see how it changes the whole pic. You can see what is changed first, right? Or what's changed more drastically. It's like the edges of the water and the lit parts of the background, right? Now with this one, it's deeper into the water, but it's not quite dead center. With this one, this is the dead center of the water. And you can see that right here. I was looking at this section right here as I was doing this. And this is just to gauge how you want to. If you wanted to, you can make these brighter, right? But I'm trying to bring detail into it without making it look crushed. You see how this completely changed the horse, and this section right here changed the way this is viewed completely. I do not like that. I have to, even though the curves target the luminance levels of within the histogram, right? The exposure levels, I think, is the more proper word. So I did not love what I saw right there. I want the background to get darker. I want the horse to get lighter. And I want the water to get, I'm going to want the water to get slightly darker. That's just what I know off the top of my head while doing this. So let's get to it. Let's look at the background. And as you can see, it has selected all of the water in the background. To fix that, I'm going to hit subtract, and I'm just going to use a brush because make sure we switch this, and we're going to, okay, let's remove, delete brush, and then we're going to go to mask, subtract, brush, and okay, great. Sometimes it doesn't show, and I think that's because I didn't switch this right away. But yeah, I'm gonna subtract the water from this mask because, in fact, yeah, the horse, the water, I just don't want any of this to be red. I have to like brace my desk as it shakes. Sorry if it's shaking the camera so much. So I'm removing the water from the mask, and I added a lot of feather because I want to be careful of making sure that this section, particularly right here, still has a hint of the edit, but that the water is saved. I don't want any of the horse in this mask at all. This is purely for the background. I don't want red on the horse in any way. So I'm going to lower the feather now. I'm going to lower the size, and I'm going to lower the size even more. I'm really going to minus the red on the horse. You see how I caught the ears? I don't want that. I really don't want that. In fact, it even caught some of the hair, which this is why you gotta be careful with these auto masks. It's your responsibility to go in and make sure that it's not stealing away some of them details that we love. It's stealing the face. And this is where, if the mask is catching on a certain section, guess what that means? It means that their information there is similar enough that the computer thinks that it's the same section. So even to the human eye, we pick up those subtle things. And this is how we're separating the horse from the background. Now, do I worry about the hairs on the chinny chin of the horse? No, not at this time. I just don't think that I'll get much bang for my buck for spending time worrying about that. But I do want this mask to be really good on the horse so that we don't lose our buddy. information. The hair up here, I am going to have to work with. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to get these ears right. And sometimes even when I'm looking at that, I think that I'm doing it, but I'm actually crafting the ear. Okay. Now we're just going to, before I worry about the hairs, I'm just going to do sections that I easily can do for sure before I start messing with density. What kind little bum? Okay. I'll say it again. Brushing becomes really relaxing. It hurts the hand a little bit if you start doing it fast. And I'm sure people do it fast. But I find it cathartic. Now that might have been not my favorite stroke there. And how I'm doing this is I'm pressing Alt and it's doing the opposite action. Can save some of these bubbles. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Just gonna save some of these from being affected. And one of the keys is because this mask is so close to things that are opposite or so contrast, you're just gonna have to be mindful while you're editing of that. Okay, zoom out and we're gonna go the hair on the back. Now I'm gonna lower density and raise feather. Let's go to 70. Raise the feather and we're gonna raise the size, and I just used my scroll wheel to make that bigger, and I'm gonna make the feather even more. And now we're just gonna play with this a little bit more, bring in some of those hairs back into, because the plan right now is, as we were looking at the global edits, is the background needs to be a little bit darker to separate it from the horse. And if we darken too much of the hairs, they'll just disappear. What's a horse with no hair? I am a little worried that I might have overdone it there, but it's still pretty pink. And pink means that it's going to remove some of the data for sure. So I don't think I overdid it too far. Okay, time to edit. Dodge and burn time. Yep, this is exactly what we wanted. You see how beautiful that separates? And you can see this halo. That's bad. The halo forming on the hairs. You see the halo? That's from my low density. So we're gonna go in here and we're going to do the opposite of what I did. And this is bringing back some of that. And we're at negative 0.88 right now. And we're gonna go all the way just to see how that looks. I'm glad, and that's the trick, is you're really just getting to the point where you can't notice it. And I'm holding Alt to bring these sections back into the mask and just help hide that mask a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. When you can't see the halo up close, it's a good sign. So we're at negative 1.08. Go a little bit lower. If we lower it too much, we'll lose. This is all black. If we, yeah, you can see there's no information right there. And so we've already lowered this. Like we can go, if we go much further than -1, it just kind of doesn't look right. Now we can raise the contrast. We're gonna turn this off because it's distracting me. Shadows. Shadows is affecting that bush section right here a lot. I actually think I'm gonna raise the shadows, which seems a little counterintuitive, but it's adding a dynamic that makes this look like this. It gives shade to the sides of this bush and this tree, making it look three-dimensional. So I am gonna raise the shadows for that particular reason. And I'm looking at the background, but I am checking the foreground. I am checking the horse. Does it look right? You know? Now, whites are gonna be with the highlights. Because one of the dangers of just lowering the exposure is suddenly your background just looks like a seamless paper. But you took a portrait in a studio. And in this storytelling, what makes this magical is that this is an animal that lives largely without the help of people and lives an unguided life. It chooses where it goes and when it goes there, and it is in the environment. And so if you subtract the environment completely from it, just kind of feels a little wrong. I just think it is interesting to say this was in the wild, and the only way you can tell that is if there's some environment in the image. Okay, now let's play with blacks. Blacks turn the whole thing gray as we raise them, which isn't horrible. If I actually am kind of liking it, because the exposure next to the horse is staying low, but it's bringing more details out of these sections, which is making it look like a larger world, where right now we're at +7. If we lower the blocks, you lose the world, you lose the horse. And the whole point of what we're trying to do is to separate the horse from the background. And by making it clear that there is a background, we're separating the horse. And so what I just did, I should explain that, is I raised the blocks +6, and I lowered the exposure even more, because the exposure is affecting these highlighted areas, which we're just gonna leave it there, because now it looks bushy, and I like that. I like the fact this looks like a tree. It looks like bushes. It looks like plants. It doesn't look like just a bouquet of a horse that got shot by a 600mm f4, which is beautiful picture sometimes. But I go out into the world to see the world, and that's just part of what I look for in an image. Is like, I feel like I'm being transported to this moment. That's the feelings I'm getting while I'm doing this. And now we get to go, that's just the background mask. Let's look at if we can select the subject, and what will it tell us is the subject. Great, it did catch the horse pretty well. I'm gonna lower the feather on this and raise the density because this leg is definitely the subject. I'm gonna minus over here. Why is it not? Oh, that would be why. Because that was a plus brush, I guess we need to do a minus brush. And I'm just cleaning up some of this. And while this says it's the subject mask, I'm going to call this more of the horse mask. And it would take a lot of time separating the droplets from the horse. So we just have to be mindful of how we edit the horse. I mean, has a real hard time with these ears. We don't want the ears to turn into blobs. And we're gonna go to this one. And we're gonna add his little earries. I'm adding his ears back in because they weren't added. I fixed the shape of the other one. Okay. Now we begin the edit on the horse itself. Or do we want to raise exposure? Let's look at that. You can get a real view of these scars. We're going to turn off the mask. This is too high. This is just to look. Just to look. Look at all those scars. Interesting. Horses fight a lot, especially male. I don't think this is a male though. Anyways, so what do we want? What makes this image better? If we lower it, we lose the identity of the horse. I don't like that. I'm gonna punch it up just a little bit. I like the revealing. Well, what went in my head just there was this question of, well, should I be doing it on the exposure or should I be doing it in the shadows, whites, and highlights? And I am gonna have to think about that, because if we raise the shadows, I'm just trying to get this black mask to look more round, right? That's what I'm looking at right now. And I think if we raise the shadows and we raise the if we raise the blacks are turning gray. I don't love that. I feel like exposure did a better job, or has done a better job at making the horse look rounded. The highlights are going to be right here on the horse and right here. And this is burning too much. You can see the nose is really catching this. I do think I want to raise them a little bit. I want them to be... I want the face highlights to be one, not actual exposure stop, but just like to be one shade below the highlights within the water droplets. Just so it kind of looks like the horse is in the same light as the water. But I don't want it to look burned, and I think we've done it. That looks really good. That looks really good. I'm gonna look at it like that. The horse is definitely cut out from the background. It's very distinct. Even this rear rump has come out more. I don't like that. actually, because this is so black over here. I'm gonna fix that with a radial mask because it's calling attention to this shape. And we're going to zoom out, and this radial is following the path of that darkness. The path of darkness. Maybe not quite. And I'm gonna lower the exposure. Let's look at this. It's too strong. Back. Raise it up. And look at the image. I think that is pretty good. This is a scar, and I don't want to remove it. Now, the next mask is going to be, if you remember we made this, I'm actually going to duplicate mask 1, and then I'm going to, I probably should have just, see. Okay. Let's just actually delete this, make a background. Okay, so I want to do the water now. And if you remember correctly, the water was caught in the background. You see how it's caught? Now I'm going to separate the background, the background that we used before. Make sure that we have this turned on. We're going to turn density to 100. And we've separated the horse and the background, and now we just have the water mostly. It's not perfect. I'm not going to claim it's perfect, but it is what it is. Oh. Okay. Well, in that case, let's make that smaller. And we're going to lower the density now. And I just want to soften it around the horse a little bit. I'm just softening it so that it's not quite so harsh. Maybe I don't want to get those lines of when I'm editing. Now let's get into the edit of the water. If we lower this exposure, you can see that changes the whole vibe. That is actually pretty cool looking. I never even considered doing that. It really highlights this arcing splash, and then you can tell that this water is not in the edit though. Let's try to add this a little bit. Okay. Now what this has done by lowering the exposure of the main body of water, it makes this point the brightest, and it's distractingly bright. That's too dense. Let's look at that now. So that helped regulate it a little more so that the water was all being caught by this mask, at least these main lines. You notice how this is a line of water? I'm going to raise it slowly to the point where the image doesn't look dark. And I think that's it. We're at negative 0.8. We're gonna raise the contrast. We'll just go all the way just to look at it. Ugh. Makes it look like ice. But I'll give it +6. And then the highlights, you can tell this is how we make the water look like it has a lot going on. Shadows. There's not a lot of shadows on the water, so I doubt. Well, it's the body of water is being affected by this. You see that how it makes it gray and this makes it black? I kind of like it looking black. And whites, this is gonna affect all of it. If you raise the whites, it gives it that shine that it had before, but it keeps some of that 3D dynamic that we've introduced. So I'm gonna do +7. And the blacks, let's see, if we lower the blacks, makes the water look deeper, but it also starts hiding. This turns the water gray, so let's just put it all the way down. No way. But I just couldn't even look at it. I'm gonna go -3. I like what it's done to these black marks in the water, but I want the whites to be brighter than, because I want visual contrast, not necessarily exposure contrast. I'm trying to say something deeper, more complicated than that. I want the contrast between the soft, smoothness of the water versus the disturbing power, moving power of the horse and its leg. So I'm going to raise the whites too high. I'm loving this right here. I'm loving the way this looks. I worry about if we raise the whites, I'm worried about losing that 3D element to it. And this is how I reintroduce some more gradual change in it. I think a good picture is when you want to keep looking at it, when it pulls you in, when there's something inside that picture that makes you want to look more at that spot, look more at that image. That's what makes an interesting picture to me. Because of the way things are, I feel like there's a lot going on that makes me want to look more at this picture, which is a good thing. Now for effects, let's raise the clarity too high. And then texture. Do we want to dehaze this? Oh, dehaze is making everything blacker. Grayer. Let's look at that. I'm wondering if that's what I missed. I think I did miss using dehaze on the horse. And clarity. I just switched to the horse edit. I didn't say that, but when I was doing the clarity on the water, I saw the effect, and then I looked at the horse and I was like, oh man, that face would be really beautiful with a little bit more darkness in the shadows, and that's what dehaze would do. So I think this looks quite beautiful now. And that's why I came back here. We're going to add grain to the water. Even though I typically only add grain to the whole image, but I'm adding grain to the water so that even as I add grain to the rest of the image, it keeps the density of texture on the water. I had to think about how to say that, okay? Give me time. I gotta think about these things. And I had so much fun doing all those effects on the water and the horse. I'm gonna now do it for the whole image. And it's gonna be very subtle here because it's global. And we did do those effects on the main subject. But vignette, I always do globally. This is cool. I love the fact that we have these two black sections here, and then the water. We're gonna add grain. And one reason to do the grain global is the divide between the subjects. I feel like this is gonna help with that. And I'm being captivated by this image now. I'm seeing it in a new light. It's stronger than it was before. One thing I am noticing is this looks like a bubble of exposure to me. So I'm gonna wanna look at how to raise or lower the exposure a little bit right here so it looks more a part of the background fits in without removing what we did. I'm just trying. There was the little bubbly sensation there and I didn't like that. I do think mist catches light, so it's not too crazy, but it's just something to play with a little bit and see if we can get that. I think this is, what a beautiful picture. I'm really happy to get this. I think it is integral to the life on the water. I think the Lower Salt River is becoming a hot spot for people to see wild horses, and people are going there specifically to see them. I think this captures that feeling of freedom, power, grace, survival, struggle, and just like the elements. It looks so good. You know, my image looks so good. I'm gonna do denoise, and I'm hoping denoise doesn't ruin some of the texture feeling of the image. I don't think it will, because there's so much good texture, hard texture in it. It will just elevate it. I feel good about it. Now sharpening. The sharpening. This is gonna be so cool. I love sharpening. I feel like it made this look like a hoof now. I feel like it really brought out the face, the eye. That little speck in the eye feels sharp now. And I haven't even done the masking, which is where I really dial in what I want to be highlighted. And that's beautiful. Beautiful. You know, this is just the part where I lose the train of thought. You see this water coming off of the horse's hair on the chin, on its muzzle. It's awesome. Yeah, this is great. I think this image is done for now, for sure. I'm gonna mark it a 4 because it carries emotion, it has motion, and it's really good in my opinion. The challenge with this image is that it has those 3 main elements. You got the horse, the water, and the background. And they each need a different edit. The horse has its darkness in its main body because I'm shooting from the shadow side. And then you have the highlights on the face and this back. I am feeling like the main body might be a little too dark as I'm looking at it. And you know me, I just like to second guess everything I do. I just raised blacks and shadows. It brought out some more of this hair. I feel like the problem is it gets a little murk over here, and I don't like that. So you see how that makes that all gray? Don't want it all gray, but I don't want it deep black either. Interesting. And this is my problem, is sometimes I don't know when to stop. When do I just say, this is the edit, it's okay, it's good. You done good, son. Whoo-wee. I'm just thinking about it. Okay, so this is image 1 of this horse recording. I have 3 more to do. I'm gonna this is the first one, and the next ones are even better. I find them more exciting. But I'm very happy with how this edit turned out. Sadly, because of the dynamic of those 3 different layers and the masking and all that stuff, it'll be really hard to copy paste this edit onto the next image. I think we can do the general global edit settings, but then we're gonna have to dial in the masks on every single one of the horse edits, which takes time, but I think is worth it. I think that if we look at the way this image looked originally, we're gonna create a version, 25. This was shot on the 10th, but we're going to, we're gonna say this is today's edit, and we're gonna call it the YouTube edit, just so we know what we did. And we're gonna look at the original. We're gonna look at the edit. Original, edit. I want to, let's look at a 4x3. Is that so wrong of me to look at it as a 4x3? Whew. I think as a 4x3 that looks amazing. I love this texture in the foreground. I love this. I love this as a 4x3 for sure. I just love the extra layer. The 16:9 is good. It shows what it would look like as a full screen on the phone. But to me, this shows, you're on the shallow end of the water. It adds depth to it. Yeah, this is it. This is the edit. I'm telling you, it's so hard for me to be decisive. I'm gonna call this I don't know, why am I doing that? This is the edit. That's a thumbnail. That's a print book image. Very cool. And I'm happy to present the first image in the horse series.